Skoom. All right.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Big Skoom,
Tyler John the Don.
and this is
Skoom Speech. An old soul. Whenever you hear those two words or that phrase, what comes to your mind? Just hear the word old soul.
I mean, for me, it's like really deep, man. It's really deep. I mean, in some sense, isn't that's probably like a really spiritual person. I feel like in order to be an old soul, you have to be willing to like take things in. What I mean by that is it's actually really deep, I think, because if you're an old soul, you're probably going against the grain, right? So like you're different than the people around you.
Right.
And like what makes you different, I think, is that you are like you're receptive to like a lot of other things that aren't maybe normal. And I don't know, I feel like it's a spiritual person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I agree with the spiritual side of things. Whenever I hear that, I think it's somebody that's more wise than their time, right? I do air quotes here, wise for their time, like someone that just is thinking about ways differently than the traditional pack or the herd of whatever their generation is, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to throw a net over a broad spectrum right now and then I'll wrangle it in thought. But I think that's what exactly someone that would be an old soul is someone that can talk to any generation, right? And have just as impactful conversation with an elder than they would with some young child as well, or people in their age as well, age group, right?
Yeah.
And what I mean when I say impactful, I mean something that provokes thought in them. I think that an old soul would be someone that can communicate at many different levels of life and still provoke thought in them no matter what. I think that's what would be an old soul. And basically all I found was it was about like reincarnation, so more on the spiritual side of what you said.
Yeah.
It was like someone who is receptive to the idea of reincarnation and has most likely lived themselves past previous lives. So that's what I found in my little bit of research, but didn't do much. So I will say that.
I agree on the reincarnation, huge. I don't know if you remember, but there was that Napoleon Hill book. It was Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, that
And
was a good book.
yeah, it was. And he was talking about how there was like, I forgot what he called it, but he talked about how there's like this cloud of like material that is like thoughts that other people have had.
Mm-hmm.
The easiest way to describe it is like how he was talking about how instinct works. And it's like if you see a tiger, like you have this instinct of like, holy crap, this is dangerous. I should probably run away from here.
Yeah.
And he says it like basically how he says that is like when our ancestors used to see tigers, they would have that thought.
Mm-hmm.
And then those thoughts that they had go into like this cloud, like literally imagine a cloud in the sky. It would go out into the cloud. So now when you see tigers, that thought that's still out in like, you know, out in the web, out in the cloud of thoughts,
Yeah.
will come to you. And then now you can think it like really fast. It just comes to you. So tying that in to the reincarnation is because that's kind of what I meant about being spiritual and receptive. Like they are taking in these thoughts of like their ancestors, and you know, which is like tradition and just like old souls are our ancestors. So it's funny that we kind of both were thinking the same thing in some sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. And also, that led me into another question of water having memory. They say like you could freeze water, and if those certain amount of molecules together have some sort of memory of time, you can see it in it. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know where to begin to try to test that theory at all, but I don't know. I mean, I think that ties in together. I mean, that isn't everything in that we understand around us interlooped in a way. So it's kind of like a mixture of the egg theory, but it's like, well, if you have memory from past lives, then so does water, kind of thing, right? We're all just the same molecule. How much of us is water versus the water in a natural spring? You know, what's too much different, really?
I have heard that water thing, and for some reason that reminded me of something I seen online like 2 days ago. I guess they did this special like test on like King Tut's mask,
Mm.
and they were saying that it was actually like another Egyptian's mask that was like in their tomb or whatever, and then they took that and like basically used that for King Tut's mask.
Huh. That's super interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting, but can't believe everything you see on the internet. But you ready
I
for
agree with you. Anyway, we're gonna go on to your question next. Mine was two words that I made into a question, and I wanted to see what kind of rabbit hole we could together dive down and see where your brain goes and my brain goes, and something in the middle. So,
Yep, I got you. So mine is it's almost like a what is it? I don't know if it's like a catch-22, but what what does it mean for a question to be like a well-posed question, or what makes a question a good question?
yo, I think this all the time. This is fire. Yeah, I'm happy we're having this conversation. What makes a question a good question? I think the more direct and ah, what makes a question a good question? I would say directness has to be there, right? Because that would help you get to your outcome the fastest way, which would be the answer of the question and a real answer, like a good positive answer to your question, something that makes sense. So yeah, I guess just being direct, a direct question is a good question. That's what I'm gonna say.
You know, it's I don't think of these answers when I get the questions, so I do it in real time. Now, I think a good question is when when you are talking and you don't know where it's going, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
It's like you like you're talking and then like you get to a wall and you're like, oh man, like now I'm like freestyling or whatever. Now I'm like just going off the rip type of thing, right?
Yeah, but that's what thought is.
You know, it's interesting that you say that too. I want to bring that back up. But I don't know, I feel like a good question is when it does that. A good question is when you like don't know the answer, right? In some sense.
Yeah, because it creates thought, and then the art of you thinking for yourself. That's it's got to be on the fly. No, I
You know,
mean
it's
there
fun.
are. See, the thing is, I have a problem with institutions like school and stuff like that because they all teach you that B is the answer, but it's like okay, but outside of any other training than just knowing that this is the correct answer, you couldn't get to this answer by yourself unless if you can, right? And some people can, and it shows, and then some people can't, and it also shows.
It's awesome, man. The more we do these, it's like the more I fall in love with the way you think because like a lot of it's supernatural to you. Like it's just natural for you to go outside the box. And it's funny that you bring up education.
Appreciate it.
I'm serious, dude, because like I'll be looking at like research and stuff, and then you bring it up, and I'm like, dude, he didn't even have to research that. How does he freaking get all this crap, man? It's so crazy. Really quick though, it's funny that you brought up institutions because how you're against them. Mark Twain, I've said this before. Mark Twain said he never lets school get in the way of his education.
I know you told me that before. I cracked up, and I was like, okay.
But with the thought thing, Jordan Peterson, I just heard talking about this. Well, not just, but he was saying how, like, when you are trying to get an answer, like thinking, like you said, like, does that really come from you? Because you didn't have it when you were thinking it. If that, like, you didn't have the answer when you were thinking it. So, so does it
I
come from
think
like it can't come from you if you didn't have it? You don't have the answer. So how does it come from you if you don't even have it?
wouldn't it just go down a process of elimination in your head? Like I think of like starting at the top of a ladder and then debunking every rail as you go down, right? Do, 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 and then you're just left with what makes the most sense. Once you boil off all the fat, then it's like, well, I guess now it was kind of like what creates a question to be a good question or what creates a question to be a dumb question? It's almost the same question, just reversed, right? And it's like, well, could you call a question a dumb question if the answer was easy to find? Like, does that qualify that to be a stupid question? I don't know. So I took what you asked and just flipped it, and
Well, I'd love to answer that, but something you said made me think because you used a ladder analogy. And where I would disagree is because when you use that analogy, it's like you have a question and it's like you have a ladder and then you get to go down this own ladder.
Mhm.
But how it was kind of worded by Jordan Peterson was that can all be true, except you get given the ladder by somewhere, like by who knows where, God, like because you don't have the answer.
Right.
So it's like you are given a ladder. It's not your ladder, and then you can start like thinking and process of elimination and all that. Does that kind of make any sense?
Yeah, yep, I'm bagging that better. And you'd probably start at the bottom and then work your way up the ladder anyway, right? Because one thing would lead to another. So it's more building instead of coming down from the top. I think that's how thought works, right? You start with the basics and then you're like, okay, how far can I go? Ask more questions till I break this thing, like whatever it is. And it's like, well, let's find out if we can understand the basic parts of it from what I could frame it in as, right? As you always talk about framing, you got to
Yeah.
frame something in, and then you can pick apart the small thing. Like, oh, I see this thing, this picture with a bench and and a lamp and a umbrella, and you start seeing this, and then you can pick it all apart. Like, oh, okay, it's a picture of a park, right? So that's what the question is. Like, we take a picture of it and like look at it a bunch. Like, well, I see sheet metal here and a box, and I don't know what this thing does, but there's a pipe, and then you start to figure out what you're staring at. That's just my thought on thought.
Yeah, then it's
It all starts with framing. Like you said, everything starts with frame. You got to frame it and then identify parts around it.
yeah, it's really important to once you get the little parts is to then like I think what makes someone really smart is when they after they put it into their parts, they tie all those parts into the whole. And then there was another thing that you just said. Oh yeah, like what makes a dumb question?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Because we would have to understand both sides of this to break that question of what is a good question.
I mean, whoever it was it Einstein who said there's no such thing as a dumb question? But I don't know. I guess I do agree with that. I don't think there isn't there is
I
anything such as a dumb question.
I agree too. I grew up being told I asked a lot of dumb questions, so I don't know. But none of them were Einstein either. So
It's like, you know, like the good question thing is it's almost like the Socratic method, like what Socrates did. He would like say that like basically he gave birth with his questions. So a good question is when people don't know until they start speaking, until they start answering. I guess it's just defining a question, but I don't know. Interesting.
so is that what your answer would be to the same question? Is you don't know until you start to speak and formulate? We begin to just say, my name is blank, and then you say, and today my shirt is color, and then you flow through, and that is thinking, is formulating and stacking everything on top of the other thing first.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just a bunch of building blocks. And that's all thought is, man. It's just, oh, you've got that idea. Well, let's add this to it and make it better, right? And now better is just a buzzword, like you always talk about, like, oh, well, is it really better, or is it the same thing that it was before, right? Like, I don't know. So it's always a good little topic there. You ready for me to ask a question?
Yeah, and then really quick, it's funny that you say better because there's this one philosopher from a while ago, Soren Kierkegaard, and he was talking about how like everyone's trying to make things better, make things better. He was like, because of that, he's like, it's just going to be my job then to try to make things harder. And in
Okay.
some sense, isn't that what thought does too, right? I mean, if you're
It
really
should.
thinking, you're trying to break your own stuff apart, right? And
Yeah,
disrupt it.
you're supposed to. Yeah. So that's awesome. Perfect. I did have a question off the old soul question. It was, is an old soul just a romantic idea of wisdom? But We skipped over that part of that. Do you want to answer it? What do you think? Do you think an old soul is just a romantic way to say someone's wise?
You know, romanticism. Romanticism is there's a couple of ways they define that in like in philosophy.
Mm,
Usually, it's defined as like a lot of ways, but the way I'm thinking is like impressing like your will onto something. There's like the phenomenology where like what it is will impress itself onto you. I'm
mm,
trying to like think about it like like pizza, like a
mhm,
nice looking slice of pizza. If it's like glistening and or chocolate cake, if it's like
mhm,
glistening and it's like calling out to you, it's like impressing itself onto you.
mm,
But if you're looking at it and you're like, oh man, like you're impressing your will on it, like, oh man, like I'm just thinking about having this chocolate in my mouth and with a glass of milk. So that'd be like the romantic way of thinking about it.
okay.
Yep, when you're impressing or expressing.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, the answer is yes. I think the answer is yes to your question.
All right, cool. Comparison is a thief of joy. I heard this the other day, and it's not, I didn't form this in a question. I like that just as a statement. What do you think?
Here's that's so here's why that's true. Because just like how most people think thought is, as everyone knows, right? There's like a left side of the brain and right side of the brain.
Hmm.
It's the left side's job to break things down, break things down, break things down, and to get
Hmm.
all specific. And it's the right side to look at the whole. So like typically the right side will look at the whole landscape. They call it like the gestalt or whatever. They look at the whole landscape. And then the left side would be like, oh, look at that, bird over there flying. And after that, it should go back to the right side, but it doesn't. It should go back to, oh, okay, yeah, I see that bird in a nice big bright field on a nice winter day. It should go back to the right side.
Hmm.
Now, flip that to your question. Comparison's the thief of joy.
Hmm.
They will first see something, right? They'll frame it huge, use the
Mm,
right side, put it in a big frame.
hmm.
Then they'll use the left side and uh, abstract it, start comparing it, putting it in boxes,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then they forget to put it back to the right side and say, "Oh, okay, yeah, this I just took time comparing this, and now I've robbed myself of the big picture." That's
Yeah,
the problem with thought nowadays, and that's the problem with thought nowadays.
I agree. And that goes back to a conversation. I don't know if it was on an episode or not, but you were talking about how new day philosophy or new era philosophy frustrates you because it's just like, oh, they break it down to the extremes, but then they break it down into negative ways, if I remember correctly. Is that that's what your frustration was?
I mean, it sucks in some sense. I mean, it really actually started with like Plato and then like Aristotle, but basically they're making the argument that you don't really know something if you don't know what's like you can't break it apart, if you can't like get into the metaphysical aspect of it, if you can't break it down to an atom, if it's can't divide it down into the smallest thing possible, then you don't really know anything. And we've taken it since then and just ran with it, and
Yeah.
it's annoying, dude. It's really annoying because in some sense that is intellect, that is one side of our brain of intellect,
Yeah.
but people get so romanticized in that it's like the freaking Luciferian thing. Like they start falling in love with their own. That's when you fall in love with your own intellect, and
I know.
you fall in love with your own creation. And it's
Yep.
like people think now, like the better you can do that, the smarter you are. That's why and I'm not a big fan of math, which sounds stupid, but it's because it's that same thought, and it does bother me. It bothers me huge, dude, because if you can do that and then go back out to each frame using what you
Yeah.
just found on the small one,
Yep.
that's hard. That's freaking hard.
Okay. Okay. I get it. A little bit.
It'd be like it'd be like imagine if we spent a bunch of time becoming experts at something, which
Okay.
means we know it in and out. Or
Right.
in this sense, we know it in, and now we're experts. We know, you know a lot about cars and an engine. If you could take an engine all apart and be like, oh, it's like, okay, now I know everything about engines. If you can't make a new engine after that, are you freaking like, are you as smart as if you don't know what to do? Like if you couldn't put it back together?
I agree with you. Yeah, you'd have to get it back to running an operational. You know, at
That's
least
hard.
at least through a few oil changes.
I could take an engine apart because I don't know anything about engines. I could take it apart eventually. Damn sure couldn't put it back together and make it start running again.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you got any questions for us?
What is the difference between a model and then a thing that it represents? They always say the map isn't the territory. That's what they say.
You said the map isn't the territory.
Yeah.
What the?
Yeah, yeah, right?
I don't know. I mean, my brain wasn't ready for a geography question because now we're talking about maps. Hold on.
Well, not even maps. That's just like a way that they like this. It's like a school of thought that's kind of a little bit
Okay.
newer age.
All right, you might have to run me through this one.
I mean,
Let me know.
they say the map isn't the territory. I think they use that a lot when it comes to like stories. Like, there's so much ridicule about stories nowadays in the modernity.
Okay.
They're like, oh, a story can be interpreted a million different ways.
Do you
And it's
think
like
that's
the same
true?
thing. It's like the same thing with this question.
Yeah, right.
What
And
is
then
the
it
difference?
goes back to our argument about what interpretation, like, oh, well, that's just interpretation, or that's just a point of view or perspective, right? There's all these one word umbrella terms that we use these days. See, that's what annoys me most about communication now. That's why we're so bad at communicating because we look at a word as just that, and then we give it too much power for the area it's in. That's my opinion, but carry on. I know I went way off topic. My bad.
No, it's actually that is the topic. That is the topic, and that's the answer. It's like, the question was, what's the difference between a model and the thing it represents? The answer is interpretation, subjectivity. You
Okay.
know, the value and the goals that the person looking at the model is bias on, essentially.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, then I agree with you. Or I don't know. Maybe you agree with me, but you didn't say your side, so I won't say I agree with you. But I agree with me if I'm going to say all that again.
I do agree with you, but it's weird because it's not like that all the time. It's like weird how, isn't it so weird that we could both look at something and like whatever, like think the same thing or like have the same goal and value at the same time as we're looking at something?
I
It's like
think,
it's like a I'm trying to think. I'm
yeah,
trying not to pick an easy example.
yeah, right.
Imagine me and you are walking
Okay, sure.
and we see something. We don't speak, but we see something, and not something too simple like a water bottle or like a door handle where we both know, oh, okay, we got to go freaking grab it with our hand.
Okay.
We see something that's a little bit more abstract and we both could think the same thing about it.
Like if we saw a chainsaw, right?
Well, another thing I'm thinking though is I heard how like everything we look at is through a lens of like being able to grab it with our hand.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, right.
Like,
Probably. I know. Because even as I'm thinking of things, I even went to chainsaw and it's like thing you grab with your hand, right? That's just where our brains go. But is there much we can't grab with our hands?
well, when I've heard that, they say that we don't look as mountains as things. Like you wouldn't call a mountain a thing because we can't grab it. Is that, you think that's true or what? If you saw a mountain, would you think of it as a thing? Is it a
No,
thing?
I would just say it's a mountain, right? It's got its own name. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
You
they
see a
say.
G, you say, "What up, G?" You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
cloud.
they say since we can't grab it with our hand, like if we can't grab it with our hand, we don't consider it a thing, whatever a thing even means.
Yeah, I know. Whatever that even means too. That's like the word stuff. I don't like the word stuff so much.
Well, now that I think about it, isn't a thing just something that you can grab with your hand?
Yeah, right.
Doesn't that define a thing?
Is it abstract? No, no, because abstract would mean you couldn't grab it with your hand, right?
I mean, there's a bunch of ways you can use abstract. I think how we usually use it as like kind of like exactly how thought works. Like we see a whole frame,
Mm.
and then we abstract it by
Framing it into a smaller frame for our
yes,
brain to eat it.
yep.
Yeah.
And I think it would also work on the opposite end. Like if you have something small and then you abstract it in like that whole into something bigger. Like I think that whole process is like an abstraction. Now my last question is when does explanation stop and assumption begin?
I like this. That's fire. That's a good question. In sales, I know that they call it blind faith or whatever it is, like, you know, where you're assuming the problem anyway that you're trying to solve. Like, look, I know you have this problem. I'm going to help you solve it. And if you understand one problem, then you understand other problems. So you could probably go for pain points and or something like that, right? And like, okay, multiple issues they could tell. So assumption. When is ask your question again? Because my brain went straight to sales. I don't know why. Ask again.
When does explanation stop and assumption begins?
Explanation and versus assumption. Hmm.
I have
I
another
would
thing.
say assuming would come from somebody that's probably um egotistical or like they have a lot of self-belief or something. So I feel like that's I'm gonna say it, I think that's subjective. I think that not everybody assumes stuff, but from the people that I do know that assume things usually are the ones I think they know the most, and they're the loudest one in the room when they say the most that nobody agrees with. That's just my opinion. That's what I've witnessed, what I've experienced. I don't know too much about that question though.
Yeah, I think what you just brought up, I don't know if that's the Donnie Kruger effect or something like that, but it's like the less people know about something, the more they think they know about it or something like that.
Oh, yo, that's so crazy. I had just watched a video about that a couple days ago.
And there's actually the reverse. I guess they did studies on both. So there's that one, and it's also the more someone knows about something, the less they actually think they know. Which is
Yeah,
so it works
which
both
is why
ways.
I always know I know nothing. I always just try it out.
I have another thing that I just heard recently. It could be controversial. Tell me what you think about it.
Okay.
Basically the statement was like the minute I say something and I leave my mouth, it's not mine anymore.
Why? Because someone else cannot have the same thought?
Because it's up like because it's up to the person to like what was the word you keep using, the word we've been using this whole thing. It's subjective. Now it's up to their interpretation.
Oh, dang, I see. But I don't know, because at the same time, that's why like trademarks are a thing, right? And then like you can actually trademark like a whole phrase and all kinds of stuff.
It's interesting that you say that because a trademark in some sense, like there's signs and symbols. There's a
Yeah, true.
symbol and there's a sign. What is the difference? It's tough.
Well, a sign would have words or letters or a picture, when a symbol would be just that. Like um Japanese script is a symbol.
I was thinking about this a couple nights ago.
Okay.
Like the reason why I would somewhat disagree is because every symbol you could probably think of, you could also call it a sign.
I don't know. I probably wouldn't.
How do you even define a sign?
I would say
Like traffic signs, those are signs, but they're also a symbol. It's a symbol to stop, and it's a sign, though. It's a sign symboling to stop.
I agree. That's right where my mind went too. You know,
So,
we've been driving for a long time. If the only sign we think of could be a road sign,
well, no, because I was also thinking about the cross. The
Oh,
cross is
I thought about like fast food signs.
that's why I was like arguing with myself about this because I'm like, all right, if every symbol I could think of
Yeah,
is also a sign,
yeah,
aren't they signs then and just not symbols?
I know. I agree with you, and I'm almost inclined to fold out and already start to agree with you on this one because even as I say a fast food symbol, without having the words of what that chain is, if you see just the logo, like the Golden Arches, you know who it's who.
McDonald's,
Yeah, the redheaded girl, you know is who,
Wendy's,
and you know the king of thing is who.
Burger King.
So if you just see a crown, then you're thinking Burger King. Or if you see just a burger and it looks animated like that with the green with the blue swoop, you already know who it is too. Still, same thing with Dairy Queen. Like if you see, I don't even know what Dairy Queen's logo is, to be honest. I think they used to have a dog when I was young.
Well, where I ended up going with this in my head a couple nights ago was kind of like what you're saying. How it's a sign when you already have like a preconceived thought about it.
Yeah, I
You don't
agree
have
with
to
that.
like fantasize about it. So where I
Right.
got with this was
Okay.
I think the only symbol that exists is like God or religion or like God. Is like God's the only symbol because in some sense we don't know anything about it. So like that's where I went. If I was like thinking all signs are all symbols are signs.
Yeah.
The only symbol that there really is then is God. God is the only symbol.
Sure, I agree with that, but I was also going to say, as you started to formulate that sentence at the very beginning, my brain was racing too. And I think, how was I going to word this? Okay, a sign is only a symbol if you're hip to knowing what that symbol represents. I think that's how I want to formulate that. Does that make sense?
It does.
You would only know the redheaded woman on the sign symbol, right? Wendy's, only if you grew up knowing maybe what that was. But if you're cruising somewhere else in the world and it might be something that you're not too sure about, that symbol might be nothing to you. It's just a redhead girl on a sign. I don't know what you're talking about.
See, that's where I went to just in this conversation, but hearing it from someone else, now I can already disagree with it because if we were in China and we seen a symbol for a fast food restaurant we never seen before, we would still call it a sign.
All right, fire. I'll be like, yeah, did you notice that sign over there? And yeah, you're right.
You'd be like, yeah, I had no idea what was on it though. So it's still
Yeah,
a sign. So
Nani?
yeah. So the only symbol, I don't know. We'll have to learn more about that, about what the differences are, because I don't know. It just feels right. The only symbol, God is the only symbol.
I agree with that.
But
And but hey, I'm low key. I don't know if it's called bias or arrogance or whatever, but as soon as like anything goes back to one creator of everything, of course I'm going to agree. And I think that it began positive, and then think about it. Anything that's ever created is going to start positive, and then it isn't negative until something else taints it or whatever, teaches it something different, whatever you want to call it, right? Everything is born pure, created pure. So the only thing to create everything would have to be pure, and then it would be the only thing trying to destroy it would be the opposite, right? Evil, chaos, whatever you want to call it.
you know what's interesting
Uh-huh.
is that is exactly what Plato said. Like
Oh, that's crazy.
300,
I did not finish that book, by the way. I'll go on record right now.
he said that like 300 years before Christ ever showed up. I
What
know.
the heck? That's fire, though.
It's interesting. It's really interesting because everything is basically Platonism in some sense, which is pretty crazy to think.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyways, to the word thing, it's like because I heard that and I'm like, wow, that sounds like even almost politically incorrect. Like, wow, that sounds horrible. Like if I say something, it's not mine anymore. But how we've been talking about subjectivity, interpretation, and everything. Do you agree? Do you think that's true or not?
I think, well, I don't know, because I would like to think if I was the first to say it, I would still be the first to say it, right? Like, what, right? I don't know. The the idea of it being subjective to someone else listening to me talk, that's what thought is. Like, good, I'm provoking you to think. The way I'm formulating my words, my sentences, my hand movements and stuff like that is making you think about whatever I'm talking about. And you taking everything I say, either word for word, literally, or interpreting it the same way that I'm meaning you to take it, that's all subjective. I mean, if I'm saying harsh words, who in the world would say, oh, you can't get offended by that, right? Like some people could, depending on what harsh words you choose to use. So of course it's subjective. But now you saying something and then me claiming because I can rebuttal it or even worse, repeat it word for word and then say it was my thought. I don't think that's not cool, man. That's not cool.
I mean, if I agree with it because like say 3 words right now.
3 words.
That right there, boom.
Say 3 words.
Now it comes to me, and now it's like mine to do with what I want. Like it's not yours anymore. It's mine.
Yeah, but wasn't when you told me to say 3 words, yours was a statement, and I said say 3 words in a talk in a thinking tone.
Yeah.
You interpreted the same way. No, you were counting words. You're like, boom, got you to say it, right? But were you even listening for the words I said? What if I was thinking, is jellyfish 2 words or 1?
I don't see how things could have existed with no words. It's like there's no way. Like whatever the first people, like how is it? I don't know. Is it even possible? How could there have been no words at some point? Is that even possible?
Pointing and grunting aggressively must have been their communication. I have no idea. I mean, it's hard for me to think about the world without a hammer. Like, I don't know. It's just so crazy. Think about
So
that.
weird.
Like, yo, what we have today, what we didn't have. I was checking out world fairs. That's a crazy topic. I don't know if you ever heard about the world fairs, but
No.
interesting. Interesting.
What about them?
So there's like all across the world, there's big, well-known structures, right? So like if you look in the Nashville, Tennessee courthouse, that building there is from like I don't know how many hundreds of years, but they're everywhere. And people all across the globe would come to these world fairs, right? Before we had telegraphs and especially cell phones, even house phones, people would travel the world and go to these world fairs. And at the world fairs where you would start to see other medical practices in different parts of the globe, things like this, right? So this is how the ideas kind of spread before internet, phones, all of this, right? So the reason why they stopped doing it, and I don't remember what year it was either. Man, it really bothers me. It was a super interesting documentary, like 4 hours of information, though. It's so crazy. But the reason they stopped doing it was because of what we talked about last week on the episode where you were talking about social acceptances or whatever it was. That all started to change, right? And then people stopped messing with each other and everyone just started sticking to themselves kind of things and then gentrifying themselves into their own sections. It was super interesting, like the way that it all stopped and stuff. I don't know, it was crazy. Which is a false perception? Memorizing a correct answer or passing that way, or knowing the real answer for the correct answer and the purpose and the purpose is why that's the correct answer and passing that way. Which one do you think is a false perception? And we kind of just had this conversation earlier the same episode. That's why it was so crazy that you kind of brought it up. But whatever, go for it.
I mean, that perception really muddies up that question. You know that
The word perception.
Yeah.
Well, which is a false perception, which is a false belief that isn't correct. I mean, is it memorizing which answer is the correct answer, or being able to find that correct answer on your own because you understand what you're breaking down or answering to, or being asked correctly? I guess we could word it that way.
I mean, that's actually it's really incredibly deep question because you'd want to say it's the second one. That's what you'd want to say because it sounds smarter. It feels smarter, but I don't know. It's like it's like, oh, you could teach someone how to fish, or you can teach them to fish, or you could catch fish for them, and which one's better, right? That it's like that. It's almost like in this sense.
I agree.
Right? Aren't they kind of similar?
Yeah.
But I don't know. You can make the argument like, if you've watched me fish, then you know how to fish. Or if I caught fish for you and you watched, then now you know.
No. I don't think there would be all of the techniques that you would know. I mean, when you say you watch me catch fish, how many times have I watched you thread the hook? You know, like there's a lot of small things that applied knowledge really helps. That's kind of the next point here. I go into teaching applied knowledge how to think through problems on their own. And I think that's why my answer was knowing the reason for the correct answer and passing that way, in my opinion, was the correct way, because using applied knowledge, like these people, a lot of people will go and get certified in a field and not know how to operate properly under pressure or whatever, right? The real world starts to get hot, you know? Yeah, and people fold under pressure because it wasn't applied knowledge that they learned. They learned we're looking for a control in this one outcome, right? And then whenever that one outcome doesn't happen, then things start getting shaky. And yeah, I just see a lot of people folding out. And teaching applied knowledge is that's how them already knowing that applied knowledge. That's why I think going into a trade like early in your life is a really good thing personally for me and my behalf, because you learn to work with your hands and that can help you further down the road because you know how to use the tools properly, everything like that. You know, you can build your own house if you have enough resources for that. So I think applied knowledge is the best thing.
It's funny. 3 days ago at the gym, I was just actually kind of thinking about this, and it's not even super to be difficult, but isn't knowledge just memory? Because if you don't remember something, then you don't know it. So it's like, to answer your question, like, or to go back to your question, it's like the second one. Let's say you know it, you understood it, but you don't remember anymore. Or then you go back to that first part of that question where you just had it memorized. Which one's more valuable? Which one is true? Which one is real? Which one is belief? Which one do you know? If I don't remember what I just learned, so isn't it, it's knowledge is contingent on memory. So isn't memory the most important aspect of it? I mean, yeah, you can, right?
Yeah, yep, I agree with that. But you don't think that applied knowledge helps?
Are you implying your knowledge, or are you applying, what you remember? Like it's contingent. They're the same thing. Knowledge is memory.
Yeah, knowledge is just memory, huh?
Because I was thinking how I was thinking about this at the gym was like,
oh, here's a good one. I got this last question. Can you perform intelligence without grasping it? That's what I wrote, and I don't know how the heck do you even perform intelligence. You can
tell you how. The answer is yeah.
I was driving when I was writing these questions. What did you say?
The answer is yeah.
You can apply knowledge without fully understanding it. Yeah, I agree with that.
I'll qualify it too, and
sure.
It's like this goes back to, like, I keep talking about the problems I have with things nowadays, and as when it comes to like intellect, and it's like, dude, so much of what we know and what we truly know, or maybe the only thing we truly know, are things that we don't know, if that makes any sense. And like, here's one way I mean by that, or here's one way I'll answer the question that immediately popped in my head. I guess if you have like a small child who like doesn't know anything, right? They don't know any words. You could like show them images of like growling animals, and they'll like automatically like get scared, but like they don't know that animal's aggressive. They don't know what that animal even is. So I feel like that answers the question. It's not applied knowledge or, acquired knowledge that they've learned to be able to know, oh, this, whatever they think when they see a growling image of an animal. They just know, oh man, this thing's dangerous.
So it's memory. And like you said, the memory from ancestors and past life, things like that, that applies too.
Exactly. I mean, I guess you could maybe call that acquired knowledge if it really did truly come from somewhere else out in space or whatever, but
I guess that's what they're calling it, buddy. Nobody's debunked it yet.
I think it's like embodied knowledge. And they talk about how there's like different ways to know things. There's like a there's like a participatory, like a perspectival, and I think I think I think all knowledge has to have some sort of participatory aspect in it for us to know it. Like we had to have it has to be it has to be embodied. It has to be like if we take whatever classes on something, you can't say you really even know it, can you? I mean, can you? I don't know, right? Like, if we take a class on Chinese, but we've never actually embodied it, like practiced it, like spoke it or wrote it down or embodied it, it's like, do we even know it?
I agree. I definitely agree. All I can say is this thing I say the most all the time is thank the Lord for the ability to learn, man, because without that, like, what the heck will be the point of life, really, right? Like, we learn, we grow most when we learn, and you got to embody everything you learn. I guess that's true too. If it's going to be studying deep thought and things like that, you're going to end up on Skoom Speech, baby.
Well, that's what ties it though to what I was thinking at the gym. It's like, is it the ability to learn or the ability to like have memory or to remember? Like, what's more important?
Which came first, the chicken and the egg question? I mean, do you learn to learn or do you learn to memorize? Because you could teach yourself either one of those, right?
And the answer to what came first, the chicken or the egg, I remember we talked about it a while ago. The answer is whatever came before the egg. Like whatever came first before whatever chicken and eggs evolved from.
So then the thought was first the teacher.
You like using that analogy and spinning it to that?
Yeah, right? Like there was somebody that wanted to teach someone, right? Something that we didn't already know. And so it wasn't the thought or the answer, it was first the teacher.
Here's my last question, because this is what I was thinking when it comes to this memory and knowledge. It's like, is the smartest person in the world just the person who has the best memory?
Or the shortest answer.
What does that mean?
You could tell who the stoic one is, knowledge plant. I don't know. I always liked the grandparent. You could go and get the simplest, like, okay, that makes the most sense answer with the least amount of words. That's always like.
Well, I actually meant like even like an IQ score or like just like that type of intellect. Like truly whoever is the smartest person in the world, who has the highest intellect in the world, over 200 or something, are they just the person with the best memory? Is that it?
I don't know. Because then at the same time, well, that goes back to our first question of the applied knowledge and stuff that I was asking earlier. I don't know. Where would you take that question to? Because I'm inclined to disagree, but maybe I'm just being a bull. I don't know.
It's like, I don't know, because whoever the smartest person is, if they didn't have good memory, then they wouldn't be that smart. So I'm in some sense, I'm like inclined to think like, yeah, in some sense it has to be like, or another way I was thinking it was like, can we
they've ever experienced in life, like they've held on to every part, right? Like they've learned from everything they've ever gone through, and they've gone through a lot, right? That's what you would have to think, right?
Not even so much that, it's just they have this capacity to remember, to have such a good memory, and then they've used that to now go learn a bunch of like, fancy hard stuff that gives them the high intellect.
Interesting. Above my pay grade, buddy. I'm not going to cap.
I swear, dude, I think it has to be something like that. Like, or one way you could say maybe definitely is like, there's no way the smartest person has a bad memory. Like, they at least say that.
Yeah. That wording it that way, I could definitely agree. I think the other way was too philosophical over my head.
And then I was thinking, because they say people don't have good memory, they have trained memory or practice memory. So another way I was thinking was like let's say me and you have average IQ, which is like 100 100-ish is kind of pretty much average, essentially. So let's
I'm
say we have
probably like
100 IQs.
96.
What'd you say?
I'm probably like 96. I have no idea. I've never taken an IQ test.
Nah, I'd say they're probably around 100. I guess like a high, like one of the top students in high school is probably around like a 105-ish. So, anyways, if we have an average IQ, but we practiced our memory and got better with our memory, could we raise our IQ? That's what I was thinking.
I don't know, because being able to identify a bunch of random shapes, at least that's what I picture an IQ test being. I don't know. I don't know much about it. And I agree. I mean, I think it was Jordan Peterson said that you said that you can't actually measure IQ and or increase it. So if there's anything that you can't increase, so you're kind of stuck with it, then what's the point of knowing about it at all? Right? Like, oh, I got this one anchor I walk around with. It's like, dude, forget that anchor. What the heck?
Yeah, I guess we talked about it too. I guess like IQ is just kind of fluff, anyways, right? I mean, like you said, if you don't know how to use it, if you don't know how to use it, and if you haven't memorized it, or can't remember what you learned, then it's all fluff, anyways.
I guess that's why I think that applied knowledge is really important. Really, like if you can take everything you've learned, every mistake in your life, and apply it to being better tomorrow, next week, next month, whatever, then train it. Train anything. If it's time and attendance is your issue, then get better with time management. And other than that, so next month you better be better than you were last month. That's all I'm saying. And if not, you're fudging up. Complacency kills, man. But
Yeah,
I don't know about that IQ stuff. It's all fluff.
yeah, I agree.
Learn the stuff that will propel you into the future the best, most accurate way. And that's the way I would end today.